When you start podcasts or really any kind of regular video content, you probably think the hard part's going to be the tech. But in real life, it's never the tech. It's the moments you doubt yourself halfway through that make or break it. In today's content classroom, I'm going to be breaking down exactly what that means and how you can avoid that 10 episode hump. So, going back to the beginning, exactly what I said. A lot of people get hung up on technology, on the hardware, on what kind of microphone. And we've launched episodes recently where we've discussed a lot of those things, right? What I'd say to that is that for most people, whilst that's what we'd worry about initially, actually it's just a small part of the journey. And eventually, if you're determined enough to launch a podcast, you'll get through those moments. Bit by bit, you'll tweak your setup, you'll learn how to use it, you'll become proficient enough to be what I call dangerous. The hard part comes when you've actually dropped your first episode or your first video and nobody turns up to watch it, or not many people. Or maybe your first one does well, but then your second one goes under the radar because everybody's cheered and applauded your first one. And the real challenge is keeping that energy high even when you don't think anybody's going to be watching it. So there's a couple of things to this. And the first I would say is that have that long-term vision. This isn't, video content and building a brand and building authority on whatever social media you're on isn't a quick thing, nor should it be. You're looking to build trust with people. That takes time. What I would recommend is using a platform like YouTube as well as your social media so that your content stays evergreen. It stays available to the people who find you at some point in the future and want to watch back and have a look at other things that you've done in the past. With things like LinkedIn, Facebook, once you've released it, tends to just disappear into the ether. Whereas with something like YouTube, it's there for the long term. And as you build your content out, even the old stuff gets watched. So whilst you might not see results right now, know that you're building what I'd call a puddle, right? Here, if you think of a tap dripping, that tap drips onto the floor and you can't really see the impact of that drip initially. It's just an annoying drip. Eventually, over time, that drip builds into a puddle, which people can't help but step on. That's what you're creating with your podcast, with your video content. It's surface area. So have that in the back of your mind and be prepared for those moments when you release content and no one turns up. Second thing is, you've got to tempt people into watching the full episodes or listening to the full episodes. And you can't do that without short form content from the episode. So you need to repurpose it. You need to constantly create new ways of sharing what you're doing with your audience so that the right people can find your podcast or your content. They won't watch a 30-minute episode just because you tell them it's fantastic. I don't care how good friends you are. People don't have time. You need to earn that time. You need to earn that responsibility. Another point in this is to make sure that, and I tell people this all the time, whatever you're talking about, you need to be passionate about. If you're shoeboxing content in because you think it's what your clients, your potential clients, your audience want to hear, but you don't really care that much about it, then you're barking up the wrong tree and you're going to end up being bored, not being able to continue, and running out before 10 episodes. Now, I keep banging on about 10 episodes, right? Doesn't matter whether you're a podcast or whether you're planning video content, most people don't get to 10. And very few of those people who do get to 20. It's something like 3% get to 20 episodes or beyond. Especially, and it's double down on video, right? Like it's even harder because there's so much more to do. But it's also so much more effective. Have a plan, have a vision, but don't let procrastination get in the way of doing things. Now, this is a point that I picked up from an interview that I've done with a fabulous lady, Sarah Denner, who is starting her own podcast. Asked her if she would mind being kind of market research for a lot of you out there, right? I'm not looking to use this to monetize it. I just want to find out all the different ways that our expectations of a podcast can be different from what actually happens in real life so that I can help as many people as possible launch their own podcasts. Bear with us over the next few months. I've interviewed Sarah as she's starting out. She's going to continue to send me bits and pieces as she goes. She's going to send me like in the moment journal videos. We're going to have, and then we're going to have a final content interview as well in 6 months' time, where we talk about what she's learned in that 6 months. I'm going to put them both together, and we're going to release that as a full episode. We're going to release it as clips, but I'm also going to take the interesting points from it and discuss them in a bit more detail here on Content Classroom, because it's not just about podcasts. For those of you who don't want to create a podcast, I totally get that. Not everybody does. Not everybody should. But my point is, whatever video content you're going to do, whatever content you're creating, these learning points are all relevant. They're all applicable to so many different types of content, and the reasons why we don't get it done, the reasons we're not successful, the worries, the concerns, the mental state that we all get into. Starting, for those of us who are doers, is relatively easy. Staying consistent when it gets messy is what really separates people who become creators from the dreamers who kind of get to 3 episodes and then drop off. We're going to do this together. Let me know if you've got any questions, you've got any expectations, any worries, any things that you're going through that you'd like to see us discuss on the Content Classroom. And we're going to get those recorded, worked through, and hopefully get you to some answers. I'll see you next week on the Content Classroom.